Tonight on the MTN News, remembering a longtime public servant.
John was larger than life. He had an infectious smile, and he always had a kind word for people.
As the tributes pour in for Yellowstone County Commissioner John Ostlund, new details emerge about the seconds leading up to his deadly plane crash. Also, this was the scene 15 years ago today in Billings.
I was really I've never seen a tornado, so I was more amazed.
It was just an incredible day, incredible show too.
We look back on the destructive Father's Day tornado and digging up the past. We'll see what was inside a 25-year-old time capsule unearthed at Highland Elementary. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on your Friday night. I'm Russ Riesinger. This was the scene 15 years ago today on June 20th, 2010, when a tornado terrorized the Magic City. It was a day that many residents will never forget, including our own Isabel Sparts, whose father shot this video. Tonight, she takes a look back at the Father's Day tornado.
A day forever in our minds.
I think everybody will remember. Time just kind of stopped there.
On June 20th, 2010, on Father's Day, a tornado touched down in the Heights, carving a path of destruction. Former County Commissioner Bill Kennedy remembers it well.
Thinking about it and everything, it brings up a lot of memories.
It first struck at Lake Elmo in Maine before moving south, ripping off the roof of the First Interstate Arena, but then known as the Rimrock Auto Arena.
Dan Mortensen's statue was still standing high, but it was kind of an eerie feeling.
Energy of two supercells, and all of a sudden you've got this vertical column of spinning air right over the metro.
And former Q2 chief forecaster Bob McGuire remembers the science and the shock.
This was on Father's Day, so it was my day off. It was a Sunday. When I finally get to downtown Billings, I'm in my pickup truck, thank goodness, because this whole area was flooded.
The tornado caused millions of dollars of damage, but Elton John was scheduled to come to town less than a year later, so officials got to work and rebuilt. Now we have the numerous videos captured from onlookers to remember.
Isabel's scared to death.
Just keep her downstairs.
And that video was taken just right here. The tornado was seen just a few blocks away. In fact, by a very traumatized 8-year-old me. And that calm voice that you heard in that video was my own father.
I remember the shot, looking up in the sky and seeing how far it went up, and like you're saying, it was just incredible to see.
My dad, Wade, knew that this wasn't an ordinary summer storm.
There was some swirls up in the air, and I kept thinking, this is going to get interesting.
With a scared family, including me, inside, he stood on our front doorstep and hit record.
I've never seen a tornado, so I was more amazed.
15 years later, the physical scars are gone, life has moved on, but for those who lived through it, the Father's Day tornado will never be forgotten.
The tornado brought the community together.
In Billings, Isabel Sparts, MTN News.
Well, we want to turn our attention to the weekend weather now, which could bring some rain, even snow in some places. Here's meteorologist Jason Stiff with a first look at the forecast.
Well, thankfully, no tornadoes right now. We still have more rain shower activity and some more thunderstorms in other parts of our region. As you can see, some rain showers pushing over mostly the western reaches of our viewing area over Park County, as well as parts of Sweetgrass County, Stillwater County too. Some rain showers and thunderstorms just to the southeast of Big Timber. Also more activity between Billings and Roundup, quickly moving to the northeast toward Melstone. But thankfully, in our far eastern counties, things have really begin to quiet down, but all that really active late afternoon weather that is pushing to central North Dakota already. It's actually passing by Bismarck right now. We have big changes for the weather in the first week of summer. Hard to believe, it may feel more like winter.
The latest now on the plane crash that took the life of longtime Yellowstone County Commissioner John Ostlund yesterday. A preliminary report from the Federal Aviation Administration says the plane struck power lines seconds before it crashed and burst into flames. Our David J. has been on this story since it happened and has more reaction.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the Barbara Fines Barber Farm subdivision preliminary minor plat.
Commissioner John Ostlund attends his final meeting on Thursday morning, hours before his plane crashed.
You know, as he was leaving the office, as he would most of the time, he poked his head in and say, "Hey, I'm going," or something. And, you know, you say, "Okay, you know, bye, see you tomorrow." And
Commissioner Mark Morse saw his friend and mentor for the last time.
We lost a great American yesterday.
Morse says Ostlund encouraged him to run for commissioner, and Commissioner Mike Waters also says he received a boost from Ostlund.
It's hard to lose a good friend, whether they're a public figure or not. John Ostlund was a treasure to anyone who knew him. He certainly was to me.
Waters enjoyed attending functions with Ostlund, and they had a common passion for flying.
There's not a lot of solace in any of this, but sometimes to think about someone leaving or passing, doing what they loved is maybe something to hang on to a little bit.
Some more information is coming in about Commissioner Ostlund's plane crash. We talked with a man who is not allowed to do on-camera interviews, but he can give us some insight into what may have happened.
Again, this is pure conjecture on my part, that he departed to the southeast and the airplane would be struggling to climb all the way to the point of impact.
Robert Katz is a flight instructor and has been flying for 43 years. He offers his opinion and says he is not an expert. The preliminary FAA report states aircraft crashed under unknown circumstances, striking power lines, flipped, and caught on fire. Katz says warm temperatures made for a density altitude that made it harder for the plane to get the proper lift.
Density altitude is perhaps the single most important factor affecting aircraft performance. It has a direct bearing on the efficiency of the propeller, the power output of a normally aspirated engine.
Ostlund's colleagues say they're not so much focused on how it happened as much on how much they miss their friend. In Billings, David J., MTN News.
There's no word yet on funeral plans for Commissioner Ostlund. The county is beginning the process to fill his seat, with those residents who've lived in District 1 for at least 2 years eligible to apply. In the meantime, the county says business will continue as normal, with budget hearings set for next week going on as scheduled. Well, Billings Police SWAT team called out late this afternoon after an incident in central Billings. A large police presence could be seen in the area around the 300 block of 16th Street West after BPD received a call about a robbery. Believing the suspects were armed and barricaded inside a residence, SWAT was activated and 16th Street was closed for a time. The occupants did eventually surrender without incident. Governor Greg Gianforte has made his decisions on the last big group of bills the Montana legislature passed this year. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Ambarian has a closer look at some of the most notable bills.
Up to this week, Governor Greg Gianforte had signed well over 700 bills into law and vetoed almost 40 more. But Friday was his last day to take action on the last major budget bills still left unresolved after this year's legislative session. The biggest bill by far is House Bill 2, the state's main appropriations bill. It lays out more than $16 billion in state spending for the next 2 years. Gianforte used his line-item veto power to strike out a number of provisions in HB 2. In a letter, he estimated that would be about $31 million in spending. The biggest changes he rejected were a provider rate increase for air ambulance providers, proposals to use TANF money for programs like food banks and after-school programs, and an increase in funding for pre-release centers. HB 2 passed this year with support from Republicans and Democrats, but many of the most conservative Republicans said it raised spending too much and called on Gianforte to use his authority to trim it. Gianforte signed House Bill 5, the long-range building bill. It includes hundreds of millions of dollars in construction projects on state facilities, including upgrades at the Montana State Hospital and Montana State Prison. The governor also approved House Bill 924, which sets up a new state trust. It will take in hundreds of millions of dollars to be held and reinvested, with interest funding programs ranging from infrastructure to childcare to property tax assistance. Gianforte also directly vetoed 6 more bills on Friday, bringing his total to 45 bills this session. Once Gianforte officially receives a bill, he has 10 days to decide whether to sign it, veto it, make a line item veto, or let the bill become law without his signature. Though it's been almost 2 months since the end of the legislative session, these particular bills hadn't officially gone to Gianforte until last week because they were still waiting a final sign-off from legislative leaders. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Well, class is back in session, but this time no exams, just memories. 60 years after graduating from St. Vincent's Nursing School, the class of 1965 returns to Billings to reunite, reflect, and share some heartwarming stories. As our MTN's Marcus Kokova reports, the uniforms may be gone, but the legacy still has a strong pulse.
I knew that
you were in trouble.
It took 6 decades.
This just brings back so many memories.
But these are the memories that feel like they happened just yesterday, waiting for the right moment to return.
It's been 60 years, and some of us haven't seen each other since then.
7 of 15 from St. Vincent's nursing class of 1965 are back in Billings, walking familiar hallways, reminiscing on times past.
It was here that I found out John F. Kennedy had been shot.
While outsiders may think it's a profession of charts and checklists, there's a long-spanning history of heritage. In nursing, looking back isn't just a sentimental act. It's part of the culture, a calling built on stories, passed down like knowledge.
Nursing is just, we're very proud of our heritage, and it really even goes back to Florence Nightingale.
Janet Harris, St. V's chief nursing officer, didn't start with the textbook. Her inspiration came from across the street. A neighbor, also a nurse.
And she would come out in her white dress and her white cap, and I just thought it was the most beautiful thing in the world. So I was like, I want to do that.
That same awe, reverence, is what drew Lori Vogley to the profession generations earlier.
Well, I always idolized a nurse. When I was a nurse's aide and she had a cap on like this, I thought it was dignity. I loved to wear my cap.
Some things change. Paper to digital, caps to scrubs.
And our sinks were over
but not
there.
everything.
We each had a sink.
The values endure, from nurse to nurse.
I remember telling my mom I wanted to bring home certain patients that old men that had no place to go, and my mom, and I just had a love for people.
You are oftentimes a part of somebody's worst day or a part of one of their best days.
And this reunion isn't just a visit. It's a homecoming of the heart, a chance to feel 20 again. For Lori and Janet, a moment to see the legacy they've built reflected in each other.
You never quit. You never quit. And it's a wonderful life.
It just reminds you that no matter your age, you do have a wonderful life.
Marcus Kokova, MTN News.